Hello and welcome to the channel. If you sell on sites such as eBay or Mercari, you're in luck. Today we'll take a look at 25 modern board games that sold on eBay for over $100 in the last 90 days. There are over 200,000 used board games currently listed on eBay. About 45,000 were sold in the last 90 days, which gives us a sell-through rate of 22.5%. The price range goes from $5 to $200. Now I also checked the sell-through rate for all the games listed over 100, and the sell-through rate is much more promising at 63%. This means sellers are pricing their board games properly and buyers are picking them up. Let's see which types of games are selling for top dollar. Our first game is Lord of the Rings, The Confrontation, Deluxe Edition. This sold for $118, $17.10 shipping. And here's a look at the game pieces. Several different characters and cards. This has a map of the world. This game is from 2005. Next we have Automobiles. This is a racing game with a season expansion pack. It sold for $110, $18.95 shipping. And they did not show the full board spread out, but we can see that there are two boards with tracks on them. Several different pieces, little wooden cars I think, or plastic cars, not sure. This game was produced in 2017. This is Bard's Song, and it's a Kickstarter version of the game. This sold at auction for $137 and $65.77 shipping. Let's take a look inside. So we can see a lot of detailed playing pieces here, and they are in great shape. They haven't been unpackaged actually. And they're all sculpted. And here's some more of the pieces. Now Kickstarter is a crowdfunding site that will help people start producing their ideas for products. This is a great platform for people who want to create board games. What happens is if someone supports a project, they usually get the first version of the project being produced. So when you see a board game that says Kickstarter in the title, that means it's most likely the first version or the first edition, and often has some different features or perks to it. I did notice that this box is actually shrink wrapped, and you're noticing that this packaging is pretty much new. So a lot of these board games will be listed as used because they're not in exactly perfect brand new condition, but they're practically new, and they're being labeled as used. So a lot of these top dollar board games you're going to see are in great condition and barely used. Basically unpunched is what they're called if they have pieces that haven't been separated from the packaging. This is Fury of Dracula 3rd edition. This sold for $100 and $11.35 shipping. And they've bagged all the pieces, and it has a map for a board. Here's a close-up of this map. It looks really nice. It's got that vintage style to it. This game was produced in 2015. Next we have Battlestar Galactica. Now this is the more recent version. There's also an older version that sells. This one sold for $160 and $7.95 shipping. And you can see here the game pieces are pretty detailed. We see all these different creatures and ships. And again, this is another example of unpunched. These game pieces have not been pushed out of the packaging. This game was produced in 2012. This is World of Warcraft, the board game, and it also has the Shadow of War expansion. It sold at auction for $122 and $29.70 shipping. Now, you've probably heard of World of Warcraft. It's an online computer game. People get to create their own characters and explore a open world. Let's take a look at the inside so we can see that we have many pieces and detailed characters here. They actually save the punch out cards. And we have the reference sheets here. Ooh, and then here's a good look at the board. So like I said, World of Warcraft, the online computer game, is an open world, so it's huge. So I'm not surprised to see that this map is very vast. Next we have Descent: Journeys in the Dark. This is 1st edition from 2005. It sold for $125 and $66 shipping. And we're seeing a trend here where a lot of the game pieces are highly detailed. There's a lot of great artistic work here. And we can see some of the character cards here with all of their details. Even more game pieces. And notice that they're keeping these nice and organized in little baggies. I highly recommend that you do this if you're selling board games. If you're not, buyers will be very unhappy if they have to do all the sorting and counting themselves. This makes it much easier for everyone to keep track of all of the different pieces. This one happens to be a sci-fi game. It's called Planet Unknown. This is the deluxe edition. It sold for $110 and $29.90 shipping. And again, we can see here that the pieces are in great shape. Everything is here. So this game pretty much hasn't been used. You can see the little vehicles and spaceships. This game is pretty new. This is from 2022. This is Zombicide Black Plague, and it has the expansion. It sold for $250 and $25 shipping. I am a huge fan of the artwork on these. Look at these game pieces. They are painted and highly detailed, which explains the higher price point. So here is the Black Plague version, and here is the Wolfsburg version. So they're giving you 2 games for that price. And here's some of the other characters. These are incredible. This is Tales of the Arabian Nights. This is from 2009. It sold for $199 and $10.89 shipping. And we can see here a lot of unpunched game pieces. So again, great quality, mint condition games, even though they're labeled as used. And here's a little glimpse of the map from the board. Reference cards here. This is another Kickstarter game. This is Obsession. This one I find really interesting. It kind of looks like Downton Abbey on the cover. And it says Pride, Intrigue, and Prejudice in Victorian England. So I don't really know the goal of this game, but it looks interesting to me. And this is from Kayenta Games, KG Game. And so we talked about how Kickstarter games, they'll have extra cards and extra pieces that the mainstream produced version will not have. And this is why it becomes more valuable. And so we have a lot of game pieces here, a lot of boards here. And on the back here it says there's like different rooms. It looks pretty interesting. There's a butler, a gentry, ladies. So it's kind of, yeah, it's like that structural, it's kind of like Downton Abbey in a way. And this was produced, says 2018. This is Creature Comforts. This is a Kickstarter edition of the game, but this game is already being sold on Amazon and other stores. It sold for $125 and $12.55 shipping. I found this game interesting. I've never actually played it, but I did look it up because I was interested in buying it myself. I have kids, and this looks like something we might have fun playing. Here's a close-up of the inside. So we have the board. Basically, I read that your goal is to prepare yourself for winter. So you are a woodland creature, and you are trying to collect food and comforts to keep your den cozy during the winter time. So you're basically playing during the spring, summer, and fall. We can see all these little game pieces here. They look like they're well made. They look like they're made out of wood. I don't know if the mainstream version, the commercial version, would have this. Maybe it would be plastic instead of wood. That could be the difference. And this game is from 2022. Next is A Feast for Odin. And this has the Norwegians expansion and some mini expansion games. This sold at auction for $151 and $18 shipping. And so we could see some of the board game pieces here. These are really well made. This next game is really, really new. It's from 2023. This is Monster Hunter World, and it sold at auction for $125. Shipping was $25. And they did not bother to show all the pieces spread out, but you can see here some of these game pieces are incredible. These are larger than all the other game pieces. They're highly detailed, sculpted, and you can see this bottom creature here. He's missing his wings because they're packaged over here, so you're supposed to like place them in those slots. And so he's a three-dimensional character that does not fit as one whole piece. And then we have the rest of the game pieces and cards here, and then you can see a little glimpse of the board there. Here is Darkest Dungeon. This is based on a video game. This game sold for $145, $24.55 shipping. It says it's the tabletop adaptation of the acclaimed video game. And this one's pretty new too. This is from 2022. The other odd thing is they didn't show any of the game pieces. They only showed the box. This is Enchanters, the deluxe box, and this is another Kickstarter exclusive. It sold for $150. $64.23 shipping. And we can see here we have a lot of cards in this one. And because it's a Kickstarter exclusive, it has a special bag that came with it, I believe. And there's some cool plastic gems in there. Those are fun. And there's some coins that aren't punched yet. And I think this is a mat you use to hold the cards. I think. I could be wrong. And then some other card pieces here. Enchanters was made in 2020. This is StarCraft. So this is a little bit more of a fantasy sci-fi game. And we can see some of the info cards here with the different worlds. And I noticed that in this one they have a lot of different color coding here. So depending on where you're from, there's a blue world, a green one, an orange, purple, and red and yellow. There's a lot of worlds. And this sold at auction for $280 and $20 shipping. This is Conquest of the Empire. This is a 2005 version. There are older versions of this game out there. I'm not sure how much those would cost. This one sold for $128 and free shipping. And you can see a little glimpse of the board here. So as an empire, you're supposed to travel the world and try to conquer areas. And then here's a close-up of the map of what this looks like when the board is spread out. So this is basically Europe. Here's another Kickstarter edition game. This is Pursuit of Happiness. Very different from all the other games we've seen. A lot of the other games were fantasy role-playing games. This one is a little different, and it sold for $112, $15 shipping. So my guess is that depending on the character you have, your goal is to satisfy their needs, and these symbols all represent different needs that the person has and how high they are on a number scale. So relationships, you need to have at least 5 relationships. Raising a family, it says at least 8. Don't know if that means number of people or something else. But these are the things that the person needs to be happy. So it says, live the life you've always wanted. This game is from 2016. Next is Cleopatra and the Society of Architects. This game was produced in 2006, so it's a little older than the others we've seen. It sold for $145 and $20 shipping. And the seller didn't really show much of the game except for like these quick pictures, but you can see that there's some really cool pyramids here. Those are really nice. So I'm guessing you're supposed to build up this world. My next example is just the box, but this is also a Kickstarter exclusive box. So this is Marvel United Return of the Sinister Six. The box alone, no pieces involved, sold for $119 and $18.95 shipping. And you can see the box is actually in great shape. There's no rips or damage. And the game itself looks interesting. It's got a lot of those detailed characters again. So just like with the vintage board games, sometimes the box alone will sell. So I showed you that some of the really, really antique, basically like, I don't know, 100-year-old board games, even if it was a couple of pieces in the box, it was still selling for over $100. That's pretty impressive. So making sure you use Google Lens for things like this to see if it is a special edition is very important, and doing a little research. Make sure you're not just picking up these games. Just because I'm showing you the Kickstarter version doesn't mean that the mainstream produced version is going to go for as much. So just be careful with that when you're researching these. This next game I find really interesting. It's called Love Letter, and it's the premium edition. It's sold for $124 and $10.55 shipping. I looked up the description of this game. Basically, you're trying to woo this princess with love letters because you can't physically see her. So there's different suitors. If I look in the bottom here, there are different suitors. So take a look of all these men who are trying to woo the princess. And then there are several different love letters that you could send as well. And there's little hearts here, so I guess that maybe are used to see if you're swaying her favor or not. So this looks kind of different from the other games that we've seen. And this game was produced in 2016. This is Shadows over Camelot, and this sold for $114, $13.75 shipping. So another one of those medieval games. And it comes with a booklet and all of these different knights and warriors and their weapons. That's kind of cool. It's got some catapults there. And here's a close-up of the board. So it looks like a battle scene. Like you've got one side versus the other side maybe. And here are some of the knights. So we have Sir Kay, Sir Tristan, King Arthur. And looking at the bottom here, it says 2012. Now we have Doom, and this one has an expansion. This is from 2004. It sold for $125 and $12.25 shipping. This is literally the only picture they provided. So they're showing you the pieces in a giant bag, but you can see from here the pieces are, again, really detailed. And then we have the board and the instructions here. And our final game is Nemesis. This is Nemesis all-in board game and expansion. So this includes several boxes, and that's probably why it went for so high in auction. It sold for $228, and then shipping was $123. That is so much, but they're shipping you like I think 3 or 4 boxes here. So we have the main game for Nemesis with this really creepy alien creature, and then we have the expansion pack here, Nemesis Lockdown. Then we have Nemesis Carnomorph expansion. We also have Void Cedars expansion and the Nemesis Lockdown stretch goals. So it's basically shipping you four or five different boxes of the game. And here's just a sampling of some of the unpunched pieces. And this game was produced in 2018. Okay, well, I've definitely learned something from doing this research. So for modern games, my takeaway is that the role-playing, complex, creative games are doing really well on eBay. And they're also the Kickstarter versions, so they're special editions. They're not just the basic game that you would find in the store. I'm sure some of these would sell pretty well, maybe like for like $50 for the mainstream version. But the Kickstarter version is exclusive in some manner, meaning the pieces might be a little bit more fancy material. There may be extra little promo editions or gifts included. So those are the things to look out for. Also, just looking for games that are in great condition. So all of these said use pre-owned, but to be honest, a lot of them are basically new. So just be aware of that these are not beat up games. And they're going for great prices because they're hard to find. So as always, we hope this information was useful to you. Please like, subscribe, and let us know which games you've found out in the wild thrifting, and let us know what you would like us to research in future videos. Thank you for watching.